The November wind cut through Manhattan like a blade, merciless and cold. Gray clouds hung low over the city, threatening rain that would turn the streets into rivers of reflected neon and honking taxis. Emma Clark pulled her coat tighter as she stepped out of the subway station at Lexington Avenue, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. The morning rush swept her along with hundreds of other professionals, all moving with the same determined pace toward their respective towers of glass and steel. Emma had been making this commute for 3 years now. 3 years of early mornings and late nights. 3 years of proving herself indispensable. 3 years working for a man most people only whispered about behind closed doors. The building that housed Kane Enterprises rose 40 stories above the street, its sleek black exterior reflecting the overcast sky. To most people it was just another corporate headquarters, a legitimate umbrella company dealing in real estate development, import-export businesses, and private security consulting. Emma had been naive enough to believe that herself, once, back when she'd answered the job posting for an executive assistant position that paid twice the market rate. She'd learned the truth within her first month. The elevator hummed as it carried her to the 38th floor. Emma checked her reflection in the polished steel doors. Dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, minimal makeup, charcoal gray suit that was professional without being memorable. She'd learned early on that invisibility was a survival skill in this world. Don't stand out. Don't ask questions. Do your job flawlessly and go home. The executive suite was quiet when she arrived at 7:15, exactly as it always was. Emma moved through the familiar space with practiced efficiency, starting the coffee maker, reviewing the day's schedule, organizing the files that had been couriered over during the night. Contracts that were never truly just contracts. Meeting requests from people whose LinkedIn profiles told only half their story. Appointment reminders for dinners that weren't about food. You're early. Emma didn't startle. She'd grown accustomed to Dominic Kane's ability to move in complete silence. Same time as always, Mr. Kane, she replied without looking up from the schedule she was annotating. Your 8 o'clock with the Brooklyn development team is confirmed. The contracts from the Chicago group arrived. I've flagged the sections that deviate from your terms. And your father called. He didn't leave a message. He never does. Emma finally glanced up. Dominic stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his tall frame silhouetted against the gray morning light. At 32, he'd been running the Kane family operations for 4 years, ever since his father had stepped back due to declining health. Where the elder Kane had ruled through fear and explosive violence, Dominic was cold calculation personified. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He was dressed impeccably as always. Tailored charcoal suit, dark blue tie, shoes polished to a mirror shine. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw clean-shaven. Everything about Dominic Kane's appearance said successful businessman. Only his eyes told a different story. They were the color of slate, hard and unreadable, constantly assessing and measuring. Those eyes were on her now. We need to discuss something, Dominic said, turning from the window. Cancel my 8 o'clock. Emma's fingers paused over her keyboard. In 3 years, Dominic had never canceled a meeting without explanation. Should I reschedule for? No. Tell them something came up. Marcus can handle it. Marcus Chen was Dominic's second in command, a sharp-minded strategist who'd been with the family for over a decade. If Dominic was delegating to Marcus, this was serious. Emma made the call, her voice steady and professional as she delivered the message. When she hung up, Dominic was still watching her with that unnerving focus that made her feel like he could see straight through to her bones. There's an event, he said. Saturday night. You'll need to attend. Of course. Should I coordinate with the venue or? No, this isn't that kind of event. Dominic moved to his desk, pressing a button that made the frosted glass walls of his office turn opaque. Privacy mode. My uncle is hosting a gathering. Traditional. The family elders have been pushing for it. Emma's stomach tightened. She knew about the traditions. The Kane family, like the other 5 families that controlled various territories and operations throughout the tri-state area, had customs that went back generations. Arranged alliances, strategic marriages, displays of power and succession. I'm not sure I understand why you need me there, Mr. Kane. Surely this is family business. You're coming because I'm requiring it. His tone left no room for argument. There will be approximately 100 women in attendance, all carefully selected, all accomplished in their respective fields. The pieces started clicking together in Emma's mind, and she felt her chest constrict. This is about choosing a suitable match. That's what my uncle calls it. Dominic's voice dripped with barely concealed contempt. The families are concerned about my lack of public commitment. They see it as a weakness, a liability. So they've organized this spectacle. Emma swallowed hard. Then why do you need your assistant there? Dominic's eyes met hers, and for just a moment, something flickered in their depths, something that looked almost like vulnerability before his mask of control slid back into place. Because I do. That's all you need to know. A car will pick you up Saturday at 7. Dress appropriately. He turned back to his computer. The dismissal clear. Send in the Chicago contracts. And tell Marcus I want a full report on the Brooklyn situation by noon. Emma returned to her desk on unsteady legs. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled up the files Dominic had requested. This was bad. She'd worked so hard to stay in the background, to be nothing more than efficient and forgettable. The last thing she needed was to be pulled into the spotlight at some family gathering where powerful women competed for the position of Dominic Kane's wife. The morning passed in a blur of phone calls and emails. Emma barely tasted her lunch, a salad eaten at her desk while reviewing vendor contracts. Around 3 o'clock, a delivery arrived, a large black box with her name on it. Inside was a dress, midnight blue silk that probably cost more than her monthly rent, with a note in Dominic's precise handwriting. Saturday. Non-negotiable. Emma stared at it, her heart hammering. This was real. This was happening. Wow. Someone's moving up in the world. Emma turned to find Jessica Martinez, one of the other assistants who worked on the floor, peering over her shoulder. Jessica was friendly enough, but Emma had learned to be careful about what she shared. In this building, information was currency. It's just for an event, Emma said quickly, closing the box. Work-related. Work-related events don't usually come with Valentino dresses, sweetie. Jessica's expression was knowing. Word of advice? Be careful. Kane's world isn't like ours. People who get too close tend to get burned. Before Emma could respond, Jessica was gone, her heels clicking back toward her own desk. Emma looked down at the box again, feeling like she was staring at a beautiful trap. The rest of the week passed with agonizing slowness. Dominic didn't mention the event again, conducting business as usual. But Emma noticed changes, small things, the way his gaze would linger on her for a moment too long, how he'd positioned himself between her and a particularly aggressive vendor who'd come to the office, his body language protective, the coffee that appeared on her desk each afternoon, exactly how she liked it, though she'd never told him her preference. Saturday arrived with the same gray skies that had dominated the week, but now the cold carried the promise of the first snow. Emma stood in her small Brooklyn apartment, staring at her reflection in the full-length mirror mounted on the back of her closet door. The midnight blue dress fit perfectly, too perfectly. It hugged her waist, fell in elegant lines to just below her knees, and somehow made her look like she belonged in a world she'd spent 3 years trying to avoid. Her phone buzzed. Car is downstairs. DK Emma's hands were trembling as she grabbed her coat and small clutch. She'd barely slept the night before, her mind racing through every possible scenario. What was Dominic's angle? Why did he need her there? And more importantly, what would happen when 100 accomplished, powerful women realized the boss's assistant was occupying space meant for them? The car waiting outside wasn't the typical black sedan that picked her up for work events. This was a sleek Mercedes S-Class, windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. The driver, a man she didn't recognize, simply nodded and opened the door. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Emma slid across the seat and froze. Dominic sat on the opposite side, dressed in a 3-piece black suit that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine shoot. His dark hair was styled back, emphasizing the sharp angles of his face. He was looking at his phone, but his eyes flicked up as she settled in. You look appropriate, he said, his voice neutral. You didn't mention you'd be in the car, Emma replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm mentioning it now. He pocketed his phone and finally looked at her directly. We need to establish some ground rules before we arrive. The car pulled into traffic heading toward Manhattan. Emma's heart was pounding so hard she was sure Dominic could hear it. First, you stay by my side unless I explicitly tell you otherwise. Second, you don't engage with anyone about your position or your relationship to me beyond the basic facts. Third, he paused, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. Mr. Kane, I still don't understand. You will. He turned to look out the window at the city streaming past. My Uncle Vincent organized this event. He's old school, believes in alliances through marriage, strengthening the family through strategic connections. He invited women from families we do business with, women who run successful companies, women with political connections, all impressive, all ambitious, all competing for your attention, Emma said quietly. Yes. Dominic's voice was cold. But I'm not interested in playing their game. I'm interested in making a point. Before Emma could ask what point that might be, the car turned onto a tree-lined street in the Upper East Side. They pulled up to a massive townhouse, 5 stories of limestone and wrought iron that probably cost more than Emma would make in several lifetimes. Valets in crisp uniforms moved efficiently, opening doors for arriving guests. Through the lit windows, Emma could see chandeliers and the movement of well-dressed people. Dominic exited first, then extended his hand to help her out. The gesture was old-fashioned, almost courtly, and completely unexpected. Emma took his hand. It was warm, his grip firm and steady, and stepped onto the sidewalk. A few other women were arriving, all stunning in their designer dresses and jewelry that caught the light. They looked at Emma with initial disinterest, their eyes dismissing her before sliding to Dominic with obvious intent. But when Dominic kept his hand on the small of Emma's back as they climbed the steps, she felt those gazes return, sharper now, assessing. The interior of the townhouse was everything Emma had expected and more. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. A string quartet played in one corner of the massive drawing room, and waiters circulated with champagne and canapes. The space was already crowded with women, so many women all dressed to kill, all exuding confidence and power, and they were all watching Dominic. Dominic, finally! A silver-haired man who had to be Vincent Kane approached with arms outstretched. He was shorter than Dominic, stockier, with a broad smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I was beginning to think you'd stand us up. Uncle Vincent. Dominic's tone was respectful but cool. Traffic was unpredictable. Vincent's gaze slid to Emma, his smile faltering slightly. And you brought your assistant. How practical. Emma handles my scheduling. I thought she should understand the full scope of my commitments. The words were neutral, but Emma heard the edge beneath them. A warning. Of course, of course. Vincent recovered quickly, but his eyes had gone calculating. Well, don't let me keep you. There are many people eager to meet you. Or should I say, many young ladies eager to make your acquaintance. As Vincent moved away, Dominic leaned closer to Emma, his breath warm against her ear. Stay close. The next hour was surreal. Dominic navigated the room with Emma at his side, and everywhere they went, women materialized. They were all accomplished. A trauma surgeon who'd pioneered a new technique, a tech CEO whose company had just gone public, a civil rights attorney who'd argued cases before the Supreme Court, a restaurateur with a Michelin 3-star establishment. Each one was beautiful, poised, and clearly interested in becoming the next Mrs. Kane. And Dominic was polite, but distant with all of them. He'd listen to their accomplishments with that same unreadable expression, respond with non-committal pleasantries, and then guide Emma away before the conversation could deepen. Emma noticed the pattern. So did the other women. You're certainly keeping your assistant busy tonight, one woman said, her smile sharp. She was tall, blonde, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than Emma's car. I'm Victoria Ashford. My family owns Ashford Pharmaceuticals. Emma Clark, Emma replied, feeling completely out of her depth. Such dedication working on a Saturday. Victoria's eyes were like chips of ice. Though I suppose that's what you're paid for, isn't it? Making sure Mr. Kane's schedule runs smoothly. Emma's very good at her job, Dominic said, his voice cutting through the tension. If you'll excuse us, Victoria. I see someone I need to speak with. As they moved away, Emma felt Victoria's gaze burning into her back. This is a mistake, Emma whispered. They're noticing. Good. Before Emma could process that response, they were intercepted by another woman, this one with striking dark skin, wearing emerald green silk. Dominic Kane. It's been a long time. Naomi. Dominic's tone changed slightly. Recognition, perhaps respect. I heard you made partner at Whitmore and Associates. Senior partner, actually. Naomi's smile was genuine, but her eyes were shrewd. I also heard you were in the market for a suitable match. Your uncle has been quite vocal about it in certain circles. My uncle enjoys meddling in things that don't concern him. Families. Naomi's laugh was knowing. She looked at Emma then, really looked at her, and Emma saw something flicker in her expression, understanding perhaps, or recognition. It's good to see you keeping people close who actually know you, Dominic. Not everyone here can say that. It was the first statement that hadn't felt like a veiled threat. Emma found herself liking Naomi instinctively. The evening wore on. Dinner was served in a formal dining room. Long tables arranged in a U-shape, with Dominic seated at the center of the head table. Emma had assumed she'd be relegated to some corner, but Dominic had quietly insisted she sit on his right side, a position that raised more than a few eyebrows. The woman on Dominic's left was Isabella Ferrara, a renowned architect whose firm had designed half the skyline of Miami. She was elegant, sophisticated, and clearly well-versed in the world Dominic inhabited. "My father and your father go back 30 years, Isabella said, her accent carrying traces of her Italian heritage. "I remember meeting you once when we were children. You probably don't remember." "I remember," Dominic said simply. Isabella smiled, pleased. "Then you remember my father saved yours during that incident in Atlantic City? Blood debts mean something in our world, Dominic. They create bonds that last generations." Emma ate quietly, trying to make herself small, but she was acutely aware of the dynamics playing out around her. This wasn't just about Dominic choosing a wife. This was about alliances, power structures, debts owed and collected. These women weren't just accomplished. They were connected to the very fabric of the organization that Dominic ran, and Emma was none of those things. She was just a girl from Connecticut who'd needed a job with health insurance. "You're very quiet," Isabella said suddenly, turning to Emma with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It must be overwhelming, being surrounded by such accomplished women." "It's certainly educational," Emma replied carefully. "I'm sure." Isabella's gaze was assessing. "What did you study? Where did you go to school?" "University of Connecticut, Business Administration and Communications." "How practical." The word carried the same dismissive weight that Vincent had used earlier. "And you ended up as an assistant. That must be rewarding in its own way." Emma felt her cheeks heat, but before she could respond, Dominic's hand moved under the table, settling on her knee, a gesture hidden from view but unmistakably protective. "Emma graduated summa cum laude and turned down offers from 3 Fortune 500 companies to work for me," Dominic said, his voice carrying an edge of steel. "She handles information that could destroy careers and end lives. She's trusted with more sensitive material than most people in this room see in a lifetime. I'd say that's considerably more than rewarding." The table went silent. Isabella's smile had frozen in place. Emma felt Dominic's hand squeeze gently before withdrawing. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. Emma barely tasted the 5 courses, too aware of the eyes on her, the whispered conversations, the calculation happening in every glance. After dinner, the guests moved to a ballroom where the string quartet had been replaced by a small orchestra. Couples began dancing and Emma tried to slip away toward the restrooms, needing a moment to breathe. "Leaving so soon?" Emma turned to find 3 women blocking her path. She recognized 2 from earlier, Victoria Ashford in red, and another woman in black who'd introduced herself as Diana Chen, a venture capitalist. "Just need a moment," Emma said, trying to step around them. Victoria moved to block her. "Let's not play games. We all see what's happening here." "I don't know what you mean. Please." Diana's laugh was harsh. "Kane brought his assistant to an event specifically designed for him to meet potential wives. He's kept you glued to his side all night. He defended you at dinner. The message is pretty clear." "You're mistaken," Emma said, her heart racing. "I'm just here because he needed someone familiar in an uncomfortable situation." "Then you're either lying or incredibly naive." The third woman spoke for the first time, Sophia Laurent, a French hotel heiress. "In our world, nothing happens by accident. Kane is making a statement by having you here. The question is whether you understand what that statement means." "It means," Victoria said, leaning closer, her perfume cloying, "that you're in way over your head, little assistant. This isn't some corporate office romance. This is about power, legacy, and alliances that you can't even begin to understand. You have nothing to offer him except whatever you're doing in the bedroom, and trust me, that novelty wears off." Emma felt anger flash through her fear. "You don't know anything about me or my relationship with Mr. Kane." "Don't we?" Diana's smile was cruel. "Here's what we know. You're nobody. You come from nothing. You have no connections, no power, no family name that means anything. You're a placeholder at best, a distraction at worst. And when Kane gets bored or realizes what a liability you are, you'll be gone." "Ladies," Naomi appeared beside them, her presence commanding immediate attention. Are we ganging up on the new girl? How very high school of us. We're just having a conversation, Victoria said coolly. No, you're being threatened by someone who isn't even playing the game. Naomi's voice was sharp. Emma, the restrooms are down that hall, second door on the right. These vultures won't follow you there. Emma didn't need to be told twice. She moved quickly, her face burning, her hands shaking. The bathroom was mercifully empty, all marble and gold fixtures. Emma gripped the sink, staring at her reflection. Her carefully applied makeup couldn't hide how pale she'd gone. What was she doing here? Diana was right. She didn't belong in this world. She couldn't compete with women who had millions in the bank, family connections that spanned generations, education from Ivy League schools. The door opened. Emma expected Naomi, but it was Isabella Ferrara who entered, her expression unreadable. You look like you're about to bolt, Isabella said, moving to the mirror to check her lipstick. I'm fine. No, you're not. Isabella turned to face her directly. Let me give you some advice from one woman to another. Dominic Kane is the most eligible bachelor in our entire circle. Every family with an unmarried daughter has been angling for this match since his father stepped down. This event tonight? It's not just about Dominic finding a wife. It's about which family gets to align themselves with the Kanes, who gets that power, that protection. I'm not trying to compete with anyone, Emma said quietly. I know, that's what makes this so complicated. Isabella's expression softened slightly. I've known Dominic since we were children. I've seen him grow from a boy trying to escape his father's shadow into a man who's colder than the old man ever was. In all that time, I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Emma's breath caught. You're wrong. Am I? Isabella moved closer. He brought you here knowing exactly what it would signal. He's kept you by his side, defended you, protected you. In our world, those actions speak louder than any words. Whatever his reasons, whatever his endgame, he's chosen you to be here. That makes you either very lucky or very doomed. Possibly both. Why are you telling me this? Because I actually like Dominic, believe it or not. And I think he deserves something real, even if it complicates everything. Isabella headed for the door, then paused. But be warned, the women out there, they're not going to back off. Some of them have been groomed since birth for a position like this. They'll see you as an obstacle to be removed. And in our world, people who become obstacles tend to have accidents. She left, the door swinging shut behind her. Emma stared after her, ice forming in her stomach. When Emma finally emerged, she found Dominic standing in the hallway, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. He straightened when he saw her. You've been gone 15 minutes, he said. I was about to send someone in after you. I'm fine. Just needed a moment. His eyes narrowed, reading her in that way he had. What happened? Nothing. Just, this is a lot. Emma. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Tell me. So she did. She told him about Victoria, Diana, and Sophia, about their threats and warnings. She didn't mention Isabella. That conversation felt private somehow. When she finished, Dominic's jaw was tight, his eyes hard as stone. Point them out to me. Don't, please. Emma grabbed his arm without thinking, feeling the tension in his muscles. It'll just make things worse. They're right anyway. I don't belong here. This was a mistake. Look at me. Dominic's voice was quiet but commanding. Emma met his gaze, and for the first time all evening she saw past his mask of control to something rawer underneath. You're here because I want you here. Not them. Not the 100 other women my uncle paraded in front of me. You. Is that clear? But why? Emma whispered. I don't understand. For a moment she thought he might actually answer. His hand came up, his fingers almost brushing her cheek before he seemed to catch himself. He stepped back, the walls going up again. You don't need to understand. You just need to trust me. He offered his arm, formal and proper. Now come. We're going to return to that ballroom, and you're going to dance with me. Let them all watch. Emma's heart was hammering as she took his arm. They walked back into the ballroom together, and she felt every eye in the room turn toward them. The orchestra was playing a waltz, and the dance floor was filled with couples. Dominic led her directly to the center of the floor, turning to face her. His hand settled on her waist, warm through the thin fabric of her dress. His other hand took hers, his grip firm and sure. I don't know how to waltz, Emma admitted. Then follow my lead. They moved together, and Emma was surprised to find that Dominic danced as well as he did everything else. With precision, and control. He guided her through the steps and she let herself focus on the movement, on the warmth of his hand on her waist, on anything but the hundreds of eyes watching them. "You're tense," Dominic murmured. "Everyone's staring. Let them." He pulled her slightly closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woody and expensive. "This is what I wanted them to see. Dominic, Mr. Kane, I need you to be honest with me. What's happening here? What are you trying to prove?" His eyes met hers, and for just a moment his mask slipped completely. What she saw there made her breath catch: intensity, possession, and something that looked almost like desperation. "I'm proving," he said quietly, "that I don't give a damn what they want. Only what I want." The song ended. The room erupted in polite applause. Dominic stepped back, releasing her, and Emma felt cold where his hands had been. "Come," he said. "We're leaving." They collected their coats, ignored Vincent's protests about staying for after-dinner drinks, and stepped out into the November night. The first snowflakes were falling, dusting the city in white. In the car, they sat in silence for several blocks. Emma stared out the window, her mind racing. Everything had changed tonight, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for whatever came next. "Emma," Dominic's voice broke the silence. "What happened tonight was necessary. I needed them to see that I won't be manipulated into an alliance marriage, that I make my own choices. And I'm that choice? Your statement of independence?" Emma heard the bitterness in her own voice. "No." He turned to look at her, and his expression was more open than she'd ever seen it. "You're not a statement, you're—" He trailed off, seeming to struggle with words for the first time since she'd known him. "You're the only real thing in my entire life," he finally said. "Everyone else wants something. Power, connections, money, status. You just show up every day and do your job. You don't fawn, you don't scheme, you don't try to manipulate me. You're competent and honest, and you look at me like I'm just a person instead of a title or a threat." Emma's throat tightened. "Dominic, I'm not good at this," he continued, his voice rough. "I'm not good at feelings or explanations or any of the things I'm supposed to say. But I know that every morning when I come into the office, you're the first person I want to see. I know that your opinion matters more to me than anyone else's, and I know that I'm being selfish keeping you in my world when you deserve better, but I can't seem to make myself let you go." The car pulled up in front of Emma's building. She sat frozen, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "I'm not asking you to decide anything tonight," Dominic said, "but I need you to know this isn't a game to me. You're not a game to me. Whatever happens next, whatever you choose, you need to know that." Emma met his eyes, saw the vulnerability there, the fear that he was exposing too much. "What if I'm not strong enough for your world?" she whispered. "You're stronger than you think." His hand found hers in the darkness of the car, squeezing gently. "But I need you to decide if you want to be, because after tonight, things are going to get complicated. The families will push back. The women we saw tonight won't give up easily, and my uncle will see you as a threat to his plans. That's not exactly reassuring." "I'm not trying to reassure you. I'm trying to be honest." He released her hand. "Take the weekend. Think about what you want, but Emma..." He waited until she looked at him again. "If you decide you can't do this, I'll understand. I'll make sure you land somewhere safe, somewhere far from all of this. But if you decide to stay, then what? Then I protect what's mine." The way he said it, quiet, absolute, possessive, sent shivers down her spine. "And I don't lose." Emma got out of the car on shaking legs. She watched it drive away, snowflakes melting on her skin, her mind spinning with everything that had happened, everything that had been said. Inside her apartment, she finally allowed herself to collapse on her couch. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You were warned. Stay away from what doesn't belong to you." Emma stared at it, fear and anger warring in her chest. She thought about Victoria's cruel smile, Diana's threats, Isabella's warning. She thought about Dominic's hand on her waist as they danced, the vulnerability in his eyes as he'd admitted what she meant to him. She thought about the choice she had to make. Outside, the snow continued to fall, transforming the city into something beautiful and strange and dangerous, just like everything else in Dominic Kane's world. Emma didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed watching the snow fall past her window, the threatening text message glowing on her phone screen until she finally turned it face down on her nightstand. But even in the darkness, she could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest. By Monday morning, she'd made her choice. The office felt different when she arrived at 7:15. Or maybe Emma was different. She'd spent Sunday researching what she was really involved in, not just Dominic's legitimate businesses, but the family history, the territories, the violence that occasionally made headlines when someone got careless or bold. She'd known abstractly what the Kane family was, but knowing and truly understanding were two different things. Dominic was already there, standing at his window as he often did. He turned when she entered, his eyes searching her face. "You came back," he said quietly. "I don't run from things just because they're complicated." Emma set down her bag, straightened her shoulders. "But we need to establish some ground rules if we're doing this." Something flickered in Dominic's expression. Relief, maybe, or respect. "All right. First, I need honesty. Complete honesty. If something dangerous is happening, I need to know. I can't make good decisions if I'm working with half the information." "Agreed. Second, my job doesn't change. I'm not going to suddenly become useless because we're whatever we are. I'm good at what I do, and I want to keep doing it. I wouldn't have it any other way." Dominic moved closer. "Anything else?" Emma met his gaze. "Yes. If this goes wrong, if I become a liability to you or your family, you let me walk away. Cleanly. No strings, no threats, no making me disappear. I get to leave with my life intact." Dominic's jaw tightened. "Emma, that's non-negotiable." Her voice was firm despite her racing heart. "I need to know I have an exit if things become impossible." For a long moment, Dominic just looked at her. Then he extended his hand. "You have my word." They shook on it, the gesture formal and binding. Emma felt the warmth of his palm against hers, the strength in his grip, and wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life or the bravest decision she'd ever made. The week started normally enough. Emma handled calls and meetings, coordinated schedules, managed the endless flow of information that passed through Dominic's office. But she began noticing things she'd overlooked before, the way Marcus would exchange glances with Dominic when certain names came up, the coded language in some of the contracts, the meetings that weren't recorded on any official calendar. On Tuesday afternoon, a flower delivery arrived. 24 black roses with a card that read, "Some flowers wilt faster than others. No signature." Emma showed it to Dominic immediately. His expression went cold and hard. "Marcus," he called through the intercom. "Get in here." Marcus Chen appeared within seconds, his sharp eyes taking in the flowers. "Subtle. I want to know who sent them, and I want it done quietly." Dominic's voice was controlled, but Emma heard the steel underneath. "Also, Emma needs security. Starting today. Already arranged," Marcus said. "James will handle it. He's discreet." "Wait." Emma started to protest, but Dominic cut her off with a look. "This isn't optional. Someone is already making moves. I won't have you exposed." After Marcus left, Emma turned to Dominic. "Who do you think sent them?" "Could be any of a dozen people who were at the event Saturday. Could be someone acting on behalf of a family that's unhappy with my choice." He moved to dispose of the roses. "The message is clear enough. You're vulnerable, and they want you to know it. That's meant to scare me." "Is it working?" Emma thought about lying, but she'd promised honesty would run both ways. "Yes, but I'm not leaving." Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Pride mixed with concern. "Then we deal with it. Together." James turned out to be a quiet man in his 40s with the build of someone who'd spent time in the military. He was professional and unobtrusive, but Emma was acutely aware of his presence as he followed her to and from the office, checked her apartment building, and maintained a careful distance that was somehow both protective and unsettling. "You'll get used to him," Dominic said Wednesday evening as they worked late on a contract negotiation. The office was quiet, most of the staff having left hours ago. "It's strange, being watched all the time." "It's necessary." Dominic set down his pen, studying her. "You're handling this better than I expected." "What did you expect, that I'd fall apart?" "Most people would." Emma leaned back in her chair. "I grew up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep us housed and fed. I learned early that life doesn't care about your comfort level. You either adapt or you drown. This is just another kind of adapting." "Tell me about her." "Your mother." It was the first personal question Dominic had asked in 3 years. Emma found herself answering. "She died when I was 22. Cancer. By the time they caught it, there was nothing they could do. I dropped out of school to take care of her, went back after she passed to finish my degree. That's why I needed this job. The salary, the benefits. I had medical debt and student loans and no safety net. I'm sorry." The words were simple, but genuine. It taught me that the only person you can really count on is yourself. That security is an illusion and everything can change in a moment. Emma met his eyes. So when I say I'm not afraid of your world, it's not bravado. I've already lived through my worst nightmare. Everything else is just degrees of difficult. Dominic was quiet for a moment. My mother left when I was 8. Couldn't handle what my father was, what he did. She tried to take me with her, but he wouldn't allow it. Said a Kane stays with the family. Do you ever hear from her? She sends a card every birthday from different places. Last year it was Portugal, this year New Zealand. Never a return address, just proof she's still alive and still running. Do you blame her for leaving? I used to. Dominic's voice was distant. Now I understand it. My father was brutal, unpredictable. The violence wasn't just business with him, it was personal. He enjoyed it. When I took over, I changed things, made them cleaner, more controlled. But I'm still his son, still capable of the same things he was. Is that what you think? That you're like him? I know what I'm capable of, Emma. I've done things that would make you look at me differently. Emma considered this. We're all capable of terrible things under the right circumstances. The difference is whether we let those things define us, or whether we choose something better when we can. Before Dominic could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. I need to handle something. James will take you home. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about tonight. But his tone said otherwise. Emma gathered her things, but as she reached the door, she turned back. Dominic, whatever you're about to do, be careful. His eyes met hers, surprised. I'm always careful. No, you're always controlled. That's different. She left before he could respond, but she felt his gaze on her back all the way to the elevator. Thursday brought a different kind of threat. Emma's sister, her half-sister really from her father's second marriage, called in tears. Meredith was 24, still living in Connecticut, still struggling to find her footing in life. Emma, something weird happened, Meredith said between sobs. Someone came to my apartment asking questions about you, about where you work, who you're seeing, if you're in some kind of trouble. Emma's blood ran cold. What did they look like? I don't know. A woman, really put together. She said she was doing a background check for a job you applied for, but something felt off. She knew things, Emma, like where Mom was buried and that you'd dropped out of school for a while. Things you don't just know from a background check. What did you tell her? Nothing. I said I didn't know anything and asked her to leave, but Emma, I'm scared. What's going on? Emma closed her eyes, guilt washing over her. It's complicated. But listen to me. If anyone else comes around asking questions, you don't talk to them. You call me immediately, understand? After she hung up, Emma went straight to Dominic's office. He was on a call, but took one look at her face and ended it abruptly. They went after my sister, Emma said, her voice shaking with anger more than fear. Someone is investigating me, talking to my family. Dominic's expression went deadly. Tell me everything. She did. When she finished, Dominic picked up his phone. Marcus, I need you to send someone to Connecticut. Emma's sister. I'll send you the address. 24-hour protection starting now. And I want to know who's been asking questions. You don't have to do that, Emma protested. She's not involved in this. She is now. They made her involved when they went after her. Dominic's voice was flat, controlled rage simmering underneath. This is how it works, Emma. They look for pressure points, people you care about. They use them as leverage. Then maybe I should walk away before someone gets hurt. No. The word was absolute. Walking away won't protect her now. They've already marked her as connected to you. The only thing that keeps her safe is making it clear that touching her means war. Emma sank into a chair, the weight of it all suddenly crushing. This is insane. 2 weeks ago, my biggest problem was whether the coffee order was wrong. Now I'm worrying about my sister's safety because I went to a party. Dominic moved around his desk, crouching in front of her so they were eye level. I know. And I'm sorry. If I could take this back, keep you out of it. But you can't. Emma met his eyes. And neither can I, so what do? We make it clear that you're protected, that anyone who comes after you or yours answers to me directly. His hand found hers. I need you to trust me, Emma. Can you do that? Looking into his eyes, those cold, calculating eyes that somehow held warmth when they looked at her, Emma realized she already did trust him. Somewhere between the flower delivery and this moment, she decided that Dominic Kane, for all his danger and darkness, was someone who kept his word. Yes, she said simply. Relief flickered across his face. Then we moved forward. Together. That night, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. James was outside her building as always, But it wasn't his presence that bothered her. It was the sensation of other eyes, hostile eyes, tracking her movements. She was proven right Friday morning. Emma exited the subway and started her usual walk to the office. The November cold had deepened, the sky gray and threatening more snow. She was half a block from the building when a car pulled up beside her, a sleek black BMW with tinted windows. The back window rolled down, revealing Victoria Ashford's perfect face. "Get in, Emma. We need to talk." "I don't think so." Emma kept walking. The car kept pace. "I'm trying to help you. 5 minutes of your time could save your life." Something in Victoria's tone made Emma pause. Against her better judgment, she glanced around. James was about 20 feet back, his hand moving toward his jacket. Emma shook her head slightly, then looked back at Victoria. 5 minutes. Right here on the sidewalk where people can see us. Victoria's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. She opened the door and stepped out, immaculate in a camel coat and leather gloves. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for. What do you want, Victoria?" "To warn you. My family has significant investments with the Canes. My father sits on several boards with Dominic's uncle. I hear things." She moved closer, her voice dropping. "There's a faction within the organization that sees you as a problem. They think Dominic's judgment is compromised, that he's making emotional decisions that put everyone at risk. And you're telling me this because you care about my well-being?" "I'm telling you this because I do care about Dominic, believe it or not. We've known each other since we were children, and I'm telling you that you're going to get him killed." Emma felt ice form in her stomach. "What are you talking about? The families operate on respect and strength. A boss who chooses a nobody over established alliances, who puts personal desire over strategic partnerships, that's weakness. And weakness gets exploited." Victoria's eyes were hard. "There are already whispers. People questioning whether Dominic is fit to lead if he can't separate business from personal feelings. Some are wondering if his uncle might be a better choice. Vincent wants to take over. Vincent wants stability. And right now, you're chaos." Victoria stepped back toward her car. "I wanted the match with Dominic, I won't lie. But more than that, I want him alive. So here's my advice. Walk away. Take whatever settlement he offers you and disappear. Because if you stay, the people who want you gone won't keep sending flowers and making phone calls. They'll take more direct action. And when they do, Dominic will retaliate. And then we're looking at internal war. All because he can't see past whatever spell you've cast." Victoria got back in her car and it pulled away, leaving Emma standing on the sidewalk with her heart racing. James appeared at her side. "Are you all right? Do I need to report that?" Emma's mind was spinning. "Yes. Tell Dominic I spoke with Victoria Ashford. Tell him I'm coming up." In the elevator, Emma tried to process Victoria's warning. Was it genuine concern or psychological warfare? Was she trying to help or trying to manipulate Emma into leaving? And more importantly, was she right? Was Emma's presence really putting Dominic in danger? Dominic was waiting when she stepped off the elevator. Marcus must have called ahead. "My office now." Once the door was closed and the glass walls frosted over, Dominic turned to her. "What did Victoria say?" Emma repeated the conversation word for word. As she spoke, she watched Dominic's expression grow colder. "She's not entirely wrong," he said when Emma finished. "What?" "There is pushback. Vincent has been making noise about my distracted leadership. Some of the older members are questioning my decisions." Dominic's voice was matter-of-fact, but Emma heard the tension underneath. "But that's not your fault, Emma. That's the reality of leadership in this world. There's always someone waiting for you to show weakness, always someone ready to take what's yours. So what do? We show strength." Dominic moved closer. "Tomorrow there's a meeting. All 5 family heads, major stakeholders, the people who matter. I was going to go alone, but I'm changing that. You're coming with me." "Dominic, that sounds like exactly the wrong move." "It's exactly the right move. Running, hiding you, pretending you don't matter. That's weakness. But walking into that room with you beside me, making it clear that my choice stands regardless of their opinions, that's strength." His eyes held hers. "I need them to understand that you're not negotiable, that trying to remove you or threaten you means going through me. And nobody in that room wants that fight." Emma's throat was tight. "What if Victoria's right? What if choosing me gets you killed? Then I die for something that actually matters." Dominic's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I've spent my entire life making calculated decisions, choosing strategy over feeling, doing what's best for the family business. For once, I'm choosing what I want, what I need. And if that makes me weak in their eyes, so be it. That's not weakness, Emma whispered. That's the bravest thing you've ever done. He kissed her then, not gentle or tentative, but fierce and claiming, like he was making a statement even in the privacy of his office. Emma kissed him back, her hands fisting in his jacket, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break free. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. Tomorrow is going to be difficult, he said. They'll say things, try to intimidate you, question your value. Can you handle that? I handled your uncle's party and Victoria's threats. I think I can manage a business meeting. It's not a business meeting, Emma. It's a power play, and you'll be in the middle of it. Then it's a good thing I have you watching my back. Dominic smiled, a real smile, rare and transformative. Always. That night, Emma lay awake again, but this time it wasn't fear keeping her alert. It was the memory of Dominic's kiss, the feeling of his hands in her hair, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and powerful all at once. She'd crossed a line today, kissed her boss, agreed to walk into a room full of dangerous men as a statement of defiance, put her sister's safety in the hands of people who solved problems with violence. But she'd also found something she hadn't expected, someone who saw her clearly, who valued her for more than what she could do for him, who was willing to fight his entire world just to keep her in it. Tomorrow would be dangerous. Tomorrow might change everything. But tonight, for the first time in years, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The meeting was set for Saturday afternoon in a warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Emma had expected somewhere more refined, but Dominic explained as they drove across the bridge that neutral ground meant no surveillance, no witnesses, and enough space for everyone to bring their people. The warehouse was massive and stark. A long table dominated the center, surrounded by chairs under harsh overhead lights. 4 men were already seated when Emma and Dominic entered, Vincent Kane at the far end, and 3 others Emma didn't recognize. All conversation stopped. Dominic, Vincent said, you're late, and you brought company. Emma is my executive assistant. She has full knowledge of my operations and my complete trust. Dominic pulled out a chair for Emma beside him. If anyone has an issue with her presence, voice it now. The silence stretched. Emma kept her expression neutral, aware of every eye assessing her. This is unprecedented, said a heavy-set man. But then you specialize in that lately, Dominic. Frank Moretti. Dominic murmured to Emma, then louder. My personal life isn't the reason for this meeting. Isn't it? A lean man with silver hair leaned forward. You've turned down every suitable match. You've ignored the council's concerns. You've brought instability when we need order. Careful, Carmine. Dominic's tone dropped dangerously. You're questioning my leadership. Make sure you're prepared for those consequences. Vincent raised a hand. No one questions your effectiveness, Dominic. Your territory has expanded. Operations run cleanly. 3 federal investigations without a single indictment. These are facts. But leadership isn't just results. It's perception. And right now the perception is that you're making emotional decisions that could compromise us all. His gaze slid to Emma. No offense to Miss Clark, but she brings nothing strategic. No family connections. No way to strengthen our position. She brings loyalty, Dominic said flatly. Something in short supply lately. Loyalty? Frank laughed harshly. Son, loyalty is bought with blood and history, not a paycheck. Emma's temper flared. If I may? Every head turned. Dominic's hand found hers under the table, squeezing once. Mr. Moretti, you're right. I don't have traditional strategic value, but I've spent 3 years managing information that could destroy everyone in this room. Account numbers, shipping schedules, distribution networks, which politicians are paid. I've never used that information for gain or leverage. I've never threatened exposure or bargained for more. Emma kept her voice steady. You talk about loyalty like it's inherited. Real loyalty is chosen every day despite having power to make different choices. Absolute silence followed. Emma held Frank's gaze until he looked away. The girl has spine, said the 4th man, Carlo Russo. I'll give her that. Spine isn't enough, Carmine countered. What happens when someone uses her as leverage? When the FBI decides she's the weak link? That won't happen, Dominic said. You can't guarantee that. You're thinking like a man in love, not a leader. Love makes you vulnerable, it gives your enemies a target. Then let them try. Dominic's voice was ice. And they'll learn why my father's enemies don't talk anymore. The threat hung in the air. Vincent studied his nephew carefully. You're willing to start a war over this girl? I'm willing to end anyone who threatens what's mine. Dominic stood, and Emma stood with him. I called this meeting as courtesy, to make my position clear, not to ask permission. Emma stays. Anyone with a problem can voice it now and we'll settle it permanently. The men exchanged glances, weighing options and consequences. Vincent finally spoke. You're putting us in a difficult position. Other families will see this as weakness. They'll test you, test us. I've been preparing for that my whole life. Then we'll stand with you. For now. Vincent's eyes were hard. But if this choice brings trouble, if it compromises our operations, we will revisit this conversation. And next time it won't be courtesy. In the car heading back to Manhattan, Emma finally spoke. That went well. Dominic's laugh was humorless. That was them backing down. Barely. Vincent will be building support for a challenge within the hour. Did I make it worse? No. You showed them you're not naive. You have value they weren't willing to see. He glanced at her. But Emma, everything Carmine said was true. You are a target now. So what do? We make you untouchable. His jaw set. There's a way, but it's complicated. Tell me. He was quiet for blocks. In our world, only a few positions are truly protected. Family by blood or marriage. Partners who've proved their value so thoroughly that removing them causes more problems than it solves. Or people holding information so sensitive their death triggers automatic exposure. Emma's breath caught. You're talking about marriage. It's the clearest signal. It would make you untouchable by tradition and law. He pulled off the highway, but didn't head toward her apartment. I'm not proposing right now, but think about it, because the situation is escalating. First, we handle the immediate threat. What threat? Someone broke into your apartment 2 hours ago. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. James caught 2 men inside going through your things. Dominic's voice had gone flat and dangerous. That's what we're going to handle. They ended up at a building in Chelsea. Marcus was there with James and 2 men, bruised and zip-tied. These are our visitors, Marcus said. Dominic studied them with clinical detachment. Who sent you? Silence. Emma, wait outside. No. If this is about me, I stay. Dominic nodded. Stay by the door. What followed was controlled interrogation. Dominic didn't raise his voice or touch either man. He simply asked questions, pointed out how their situation could worsen, and waited. Marcus interjected with specific details. Family members, addresses, vulnerabilities. Within 20 minutes, one broke. Victoria Ashford. She paid us to search the place, find something useful against you or the girl. Dominic's hands curled into fists. What were you looking for? Drugs, affairs, financial records, anything sketchy. She said everyone has something to hide. Did you find anything? No, man, nothing. Just a normal apartment, the girl's clean. After the men were removed, Emma and Dominic were alone. I can't go back there, Emma said quietly. Even cleaned up, I'll always know. No, you can't. Dominic moved closer. I have a secure apartment. Top floor, excellent security. You'll stay there until this settles. Moving in together after one kiss. We're doing this backwards. Despite everything, Dominic almost smiled. Nothing about this has been conventional. What will you do about Victoria? Handle it. She crossed a line. That requires a response. His hand cupped her cheek. But right now, I need you safe. Will you let me do that? Emma leaned into his touch. Yes. That night, Emma stood in Dominic's penthouse. Sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Beautiful, but cold. Barely used. You don't actually live here much, she observed. I stay different places depending on what's needed. This is most secure. He poured whiskey. Emma, about what I said. About marriage. I want you to know that you weren't proposing. I know. You were being practical. Yes. But also, if we took that step, it wouldn't just be strategic. Not for me. Emma's hand trembled, taking the glass. 3 weeks ago, you were just my boss. Now I'm here after watching you interrogate men who broke into my home. Everything's moving so fast. Too fast? Maybe. Probably. She met his eyes. But maybe this is how things work in your world. Fast and intense because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. That's exactly how it works. He set down his glass, taking her hands. When I said you're the only real thing in my life, I meant it. I've spent years building walls, staying detached. It's survival. Then you walked into my office 3 years ago with your resume and determination, and you just stayed, never asking for more than you earned, never using proximity for advantage, Just being honest and real in a world full of manipulation. His grip tightened. I don't know how to do this normally. I don't know how to date or take things slow or pretend what I feel is anything less than consuming. So yes, it's fast. Yes, it's intense. But it's the most honest I've been about anything in my life. I'm scared, Emma admitted. Scared I'm not strong enough. Scared I'll get you killed. Scared you'll realize I'm not worth this trouble. Let me be scared instead. Scared I'll fail to protect you. That I'll lose you because of my world. Those are my fears, Emma. Not that you're not enough. Never that. He kissed her. Slower this time. Deeper. Full of unspoken promises. Emma kissed him back, hands sliding into his hair, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, Dominic whispered, "Stay with me. Not just tonight. Really stay. Be in this with me, whatever comes." Emma thought about Victoria's warning, the danger, the complications, about her sister now under protection, about the 100 women more qualified than her, about the choice she'd made Monday morning. "I'm already in it," she said. "I was in it the moment I didn't run. So yes, I stay." Outside, the city glittered. Beautiful, dangerous, full of possibility. Inside, they held each other. Two people who'd found something real in unlikely circumstances, knowing tomorrow would bring challenges but facing them together. The cost of choosing each other had been high. Safety, simplicity, normalcy. But as Emma drifted to sleep in Dominic's arms, she realized some things were worth any price. Even this one. Emma woke to unfamiliar silence. No traffic noise, no neighbors moving around. Just the quiet hum of central air and the faint sound of Dominic's breathing beside her. Early morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the city in shades of gold and gray. December had arrived overnight, bringing with it a fresh layer of snow that transformed Manhattan into something almost peaceful. She turned carefully, not wanting to wake him, and studied Dominic's face in the pale light. Asleep, he looked younger. The harsh lines of control softened, the constant vigilance temporarily abandoned. His dark hair was mussed, one arm thrown across the pillow where she'd been sleeping. It was strange seeing him like this, vulnerable and unguarded. "You're staring," he murmured without opening his eyes. Emma smiled. "How did you know?" "I always know when you're looking at me. Have for 3 years." He opened his eyes, slate gray meeting hers. Couldn't figure out why it felt different from everyone else staring. "Took me embarrassingly long to realize it was because you actually saw me, not just what I represent." "Good morning to you too." Dominic pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Morning. Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in weeks, actually." Emma settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "What happens now?" "Now we establish the new normal. Show everyone that nothing has changed except their understanding of our relationship." His hand traced lazy patterns on her back. "Marcus is already handling Victoria. By tonight, she'll understand that coming after you was the worst decision she could have made." What does handling mean in this context? Nothing permanent, but her family's businesses will suddenly face some difficulties. Permits delayed, shipments held up at customs, that sort of thing. Her father will figure out why, and he'll make sure Victoria understands she crossed a line. Dominic's voice was matter of fact, discussing business operations. The message will spread. Touch what's mine. Face consequences. Emma should have been disturbed by how clinical it sounded. Instead, she felt oddly secure. And the meeting yesterday? Think that settled things with the families? For now. But Vincent won't give up that easily. He sees weakness, opportunity. He'll wait. Watch. Look for the perfect moment to challenge me. Dominic shifted, looking down at her. "Which is why we need to move quickly. Make your position unassailable." There it was again. The implication of marriage, of making things official, in a way that transcended personal feelings and became strategic reality. "You're thinking about it," Dominic observed. "I can see the wheels turning. I'm thinking that a month ago, my biggest concern was whether to renew my apartment lease. Now I'm considering marrying my boss to prevent a Mafia power struggle." Emma laughed shakily. "It's insane. Completely." He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "But here's what I know. I want you in my life, not as my assistant, not as some temporary arrangement. I want you beside me publicly and permanently. And yes, there are strategic benefits to that. But Emma, even if there weren't, even if it made everything more complicated, I'd still want it." "Dominic Kane, are you proposing to me in bed on a Sunday morning without even making coffee first? Would you prefer I wait? Do it properly with a ring and some romantic setting?" His expression was serious despite her attempt at lightness. Because I will, if that's what you need. But we both know time isn't a luxury we have right now. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing. Everything in her practical, cautious nature screamed that this was too fast, too intense, too risky. But she'd already made the choice to stay in his world, and she'd learned that in Dominic's world hesitation could be fatal. Ask me properly, she said finally. Not because I need romance, but because this matters. It should be deliberate, not just strategic. Dominic sat up and Emma followed. He took both her hands, his expression more open and vulnerable than she'd ever seen it. Emma Clark, 3 years ago you walked into my life and became essential to it, without either of us realizing. You've seen the worst parts of my world and haven't run. You've stood up to men who terrify everyone else. You've made me want something beyond power and control. You've made me want a future. His grip tightened. I can't promise you safety or normalcy or any of the things you probably deserve, but I can promise you honesty, protection, and everything I have to give. Will you marry me? Emma's throat was tight with emotion. She thought about her mother who'd always told her to be practical, to protect herself first. But her mother had also told her that some risks were worth taking, that safety without happiness was just another kind of prison. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Dominic's kiss was fierce and claiming, full of relief and promise. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. We should do it soon, Dominic said, practical even in the aftermath of the proposal. This week, if possible. Small ceremony, just what's legally required. The families need to see it's done before they can organize opposition. My sister, I'll have her brought in, under protection, but she'll be here. Dominic was already thinking ahead, planning. Marcus can handle the arrangements. We'll do it at the courthouse, quick and official. Emma nodded, trying to process how quickly her life was changing. What about after? Do I keep working as your assistant? That's up to you. Some wives in our world are purely decorative. Others are active partners in the business. I'd prefer the latter, but I won't force it. I want to keep working. I'm good at what I do, and sitting around waiting for you to come home sounds like a special kind of hell. Dominic smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. I was hoping you'd say that. They spent the morning planning, making calls, setting wheels in motion. Marcus arrived by 10 with a grim expression. Victoria's father called, he reported, apologized profusely for his daughter's actions. Victoria herself has apparently decided to take an extended trip to their Paris residence. She won't be a problem anymore. Good. Dominic barely looked up from his laptop. What about the courthouse? Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Judge Morrison owes us several favors. He'll make sure everything's handled discreetly. Marcus's gaze shifted to Emma. Congratulations, by the way. You're braver than most. Or crazier, Emma muttered. In this world, there's not much difference. Marcus's expression softened slightly. But for what it's worth, I think you're good for him. He's been less of a tyrant since you came along. After Marcus left, Dominic pulled Emma into his office, the one in the apartment smaller and more personal than the one at Kane Enterprises. There's something you need to see before we do this. He unlocked a safe, pulling out a thick file. Complete financial records. Everything I own, every account, every property. I want you to know exactly what you're marrying into. Emma took the file, touched by the gesture. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're trusting me with your life. You deserve to know the full picture. He pulled out another document. This is a prenup, standard protection, but it also includes provisions for you if anything happens to me. Property, accounts, enough money that you'd never have to worry. Dominic, and this, he continued, pulling out a third document, is a letter, to be opened only if I die under suspicious circumstances. It contains everything. Names, evidence, enough to bring down half the organization. It will be stored with my attorney with instructions to deliver it to you immediately upon my death. Emma stared at the papers, understanding the weight of what he was giving her. This is your insurance policy. It's yours now. You're the only person I trust with this kind of leverage. His eyes were intense. I need you to understand. Marrying me doesn't make you powerless. It makes you powerful. You'll have access, knowledge, resources. You could destroy me if you wanted to. I won't want to. I know. That's why I can give you this. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation and adjustment. Emma's sister Meredith arrived Tuesday, wide-eyed and overwhelmed by the security detail and the penthouse and the entire surreal situation. You're really doing this? Meredith asked as they sat in the living room while Dominic handled business calls in his office. Marrying him? I really am. Emma, you know what he is, right? What his family does? I know. Emma took her sister's hand. And I know it's dangerous and complicated and nothing like what Mom would have wanted for me. But I've spent 3 years being careful and practical and safe, and I was miserable. With Dominic, I'm terrified half the time, but I'm also more alive than I've ever been. Meredith studied her for a long moment. You love him. It wasn't a question, but Emma answered anyway. Yes, I do. Then I'm happy for you, and terrified for you. Mostly both at the same time. Thursday arrived with clear skies and bitter cold. Emma dressed in a simple cream dress that Dominic had arranged to be delivered. Elegant without being ostentatious. No white gown, no veil, just something appropriate for a courthouse ceremony that would change everything. Meredith helped with her hair, pulling it back in a soft updo. You look beautiful, she said, her eyes bright with tears. Mom would have wanted you to be happy, you know, even if the path to happy looks different than she imagined. The courthouse was exactly as Marcus had described. Quiet, discreet, with Judge Morrison waiting in his chambers. Marcus and James were there as witnesses, along with Meredith. Naomi had appeared as well, surprising Emma. Couldn't miss this, Naomi said, hugging her. You're making history, whether you realize it or not. First woman to marry into the Kane family purely on her own merits. The ceremony itself was brief. Judge Morrison read the standard vows. Emma and Dominic exchanged simple gold bands. And then it was done. Emma Clark became Emma Kane, with the stroke of a pen and 2 signatures. You may kiss your bride, Judge Morrison said with a slight smile. Dominic pulled Emma close, and the kiss was tender despite the clinical setting. When they broke apart, Emma saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. Pure, unguarded happiness. Hello, Mrs. Kane, he murmured. Hello, husband. They exited the courthouse to find photographers waiting. Someone had leaked the information despite Marcus's precautions. Cameras flashed as Dominic guided Emma to the car, his hand protective on her back. By evening, the news would be everywhere. Dominic Kane, one of the most eligible and dangerous men in New York, had married his assistant in a quiet courthouse ceremony. The message was clear. The choice had been made. The line drawn. Emma Kane was now untouchable by the same traditions that had tried to use her as leverage. That night, back at the penthouse, they hosted a small dinner. Just Marcus, Naomi, James, and Meredith. Nothing fancy. Just good food and better wine and the strange sense of having crossed a threshold into a new reality. To the happy couple, Marcus toasted, his usual severity softened by genuine warmth. May your enemies fear you and your friends respect you. And may you never have a boring day, Naomi added with a grin. Later, after everyone had left and Meredith was settled in one of the guest rooms, Emma stood at the windows, looking out at the city. Dominic came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Any regrets? He asked quietly. Ask me again in a year. Fair enough. He rested his chin on her shoulder. Emma, I need you to know something. What we did today, it wasn't just about protection or strategy. I meant every word of those vows. So did I. Emma turned in his arms, meeting his eyes. We're really doing this. Building a life together despite everything trying to tear it apart. Despite everything and everyone. Dominic's expression was fierce. I won't lie. There will be more challenges. Vincent won't give up. Other families will test us. There will be threats and complications and moments when you wonder if this was worth it. And will it be? Worth it? That's what we're going to prove. Together. He kissed her softly. New rules, Emma. We write them as we go. We build something different from what came before. We show them that strength isn't just about following tradition. It's about knowing when to break it. Emma thought about the journey that had brought her here. The party where she'd first become visible. The threats and flowers and broken alliances. The warehouse meeting where she'd spoken up despite her fear. The moment she'd chosen to stay instead of run. Every step had led to this. Standing in a penthouse as Emma Kane, wife of one of the most dangerous men in the city, and somehow feeling safer than she'd ever felt before. I love you, she said, the words coming easier than she'd expected. I don't think I've said that yet. Dominic's expression transformed. You haven't. I was waiting. Were you worried I didn't? Terrified. The admission was raw, honest. That you were doing this out of logic or fear or obligation. I'm doing this because somewhere between filing your contracts and surviving your uncle's party, I fell completely in love with you. Emma smiled. The practical part of my brain thinks I'm insane. The rest of me doesn't care. I love you too. Dominic said it like a vow, like a promise. I have for longer than I want to admit, longer than was appropriate for a boss to feel about his assistant. They kissed again, and this time it was different. No strategy, no audience, no performance. Just two people who'd found each other against impossible odds and decided to build something real from the chaos. Outside, the city continued its endless motion. Somewhere, Vincent was probably plotting his next move. Somewhere, other families were recalculating their strategies. Somewhere, threats were forming and alliances were shifting. But inside the penthouse, Emma and Dominic held each other. Two people who'd rewritten the rules and created their own path forward. The cost had been high. Safety, simplicity, the life Emma had once imagined for herself. But what they'd gained was infinitely more valuable. They'd gained each other. And in Dominic Kane's dangerous world, that was the most powerful thing of all. The next morning, Emma walked into Kane Enterprises as Emma Kane for the first time. Heads turned as she crossed the lobby, whispers following in her wake. Some looks were hostile, others curious, many calculating. But Emma kept her head high, her steps confident. She'd survived a party with 100 rivals. She'd faced down family bosses in a warehouse. She'd married into danger with her eyes open. She could handle a Monday morning at the office. Dominic was waiting at her desk. Their desk now, really. With coffee exactly how she liked it. Ready for your first day as the boss's wife? He asked with a slight smile. Ready for my first day as your partner, Emma corrected, in every sense of the word. They walked into his office together, equals despite the unconventional path that had brought them here, and as the frosted glass walls turned opaque, shutting out the watching eyes and whispered speculation, Emma felt something settle in her chest. This was her life now. Complicated, dangerous, and absolutely worth fighting for. She'd made her choice, and she'd keep making it, every single day, for as long as they both lived. That was the new rule, the only one that really mattered.